Hi everybody and welcome to another AMPS educational video. Today we're going to be with our friend Steve again. Hi Steve!
Hello, how are you?
And we're going to be talking further into the subject matter about bugs you're going to see out on walks. And today is one of our fan favorites, the roly-poly, or their proper name, isopods. So starting with Steve, let's talk a little bit about what makes isopods so cool.
Isopods, well, they're a very ancient arthropod that inhabit most parts of the world, from the bottom of the oceans to, the neighborhoods in your backyard. They're pretty interesting little critters, and as you can see, I have a few examples here we can talk about as we get going.
Fantastic. So I see on your screen you have some really large ones compared to the guys I'm finding in my front yard. Now, when I go out and I get my little roly-poly pill bug guys out of the dirt, they're just about this big. Now yours is
Happen to
much.
actually have a few.
Now do you have a couple examples there of the small guys, but you have much larger.
Yes.
That
Yes.
also helps us see the body parts, correct?
Yeah, from these specimens you can see here, which came from the bottom of the ocean, several thousand feet down, they're almost identical to the ones you find in your garden and yard. There's about 10,000 species of isopods in the world. About half of them live in water or the ocean, the other half live on land. And like I said, these came from the deep parts of the ocean here, and you can see how their structure is almost identical to the local ones you might find in your yard.
Now, in regards to them being a crustacean, are they truly a crustacean, or are they part of that family, or are they part of that genus? Where would they fall in there?
So they are in the crustaceans. They are a crustacean, but their order is Isopoda, which puts them as an isopod. And so they're on their own in that department. And there's, like I said, 10,000 varieties underneath just Isopoda. So there's 10,000 varieties of isopods. And for the most part, they're structurally almost virtually identical to each other.
That
And they
is.
are an ancient species.
Now, how old are they?
They go back 300 million years to the Carboniferous period, which is a long time ago, before the dinosaurs, back when it was primarily things like trilobites and like ammonites and some of those seafaring creatures. They've pretty much been mostly unchanged since then. They are a very ancient and surviving species.
The fact that they're so successful for being how old they are is amazing to their build and how well that has held them up in their environment for so long, because they're
Yeah, I have a
virtually unchanged from some of their ancestors, correct?
yeah, they haven't changed much at all. I have a smaller one here. I was going to see if I could. This one here is the same as the larger ones, only it's only about 5 inches long. But they start out as in their larval stage, but as soon as they get big enough, they look like this, and they continue to grow and get larger and larger, shedding their skin as they go until they get as big as this. But this is just the giant isopod from the ocean, of course. The little guys in your yard, they can be pretty small, up to about half-inch long. They can still be noticeable to see all their little features and details if you pay attention.
Now, talk to me a little bit about their structure, because they don't have the six legs that make them an insect. They have many, many more.
No, they definitely do. They have 7 pairs of legs that you can see, along here with little hooks for grabbing and getting their food to their mouth and all that good stuff. They have these little structures down here, which are like limbs, but actually gill-like structures to help them absorb oxygen. That is their respiration system, if you will. Even the little ones you find in your yard actually have gills like this. They do not breathe air in the way you or I would. They absorb it from the air around them through these exterior gills.
Interesting. So, technically, could they breathe both underwater and above land if they're the land ones, or are they more suited for just living in damp soil type
They like
environments?
moist environments, a little more humidity. If you put them underwater, they would unfortunately probably drown. Just like these, you couldn't take out of the water, as they would dry out and they would succumb as well.
So even though they have gill-like structures, they're not quite capable of
Yes.
entering each environment interchangeably. So
No, they're pretty much restricted to the one where they come from. Um,
That's
This
good to
one
know.
here is preserved wet. As you can see, it's about the same size as this one, but I can turn this one around here so you can actually see its back, which has the same plates
Wow.
like you would see on a terrestrial one, these big armored plates. But
Yeah.
this one has almost like a tail-like structure. You can see here, so they can swim a little bit. They can, like a shrimp, kind of propel themselves along into the water. But they're, like I say, it's really pretty remarkable that something this large is virtually identical to the same little guys that you might find in your own backyard. In fact, these little roly-poly ones I have here are the ones that curl up into a little ball as a defensive mechanism. Aren't quite as similar as these, but you can find ones on the ground and the land that look almost identical to these, except only about this big. They have the same, almost virtually identical structure. Fortunately, I wasn't able to find any of those today to show you, but I'm sure we can get some images to put up.
Yeah, we can definitely share what those look like. Now, their legs and their exoskeleton allow them to be a little bit more of a prey animal. Especially, you can see it with the pillbug's defensive manner of just rolling up into a ball. Who would eat bugs like these?
They're pretty much bottom of the food chain. Any animal that feeds on insects would probably be more than happy to munch one down. Their defensive mechanism works great to help them roll away and be a little more secure in the environment they live in. And it's also not just for defense too. When they curl up, it's also to help retain moisture. And in a dry environment, they can close themselves up and prevent themselves from drying out to survive longer in a less hospitable environment.
That is such a great factor for survival for them and such a unique defense mechanism in both the insect world as well as other worlds. I know like hedgehogs do kind of the roll up and prickly kind of thing, but these guys just make such a hard shell like an armadillo almost.
Yeah,
Um,
armadillo, pangolin, they have those nice shells on the outside that keeps their soft parts protected.
Got it. Okay, well, that is some interesting information. Let's go on to the next section. They have eyes and antenna. What would they use their antenna for?
Their antenna, they've used those across the seafloor, the ground, wherever they happen to be to pick up scents of possible nutrition, food, things they want to eat. It's just a tactile type of a sensory device, as opposed to the eyes, which is more light, dark, to see changes in lighting, to see for predators coming or whatnot. The antennae are more for seeking food and looking for what they might want to eat.
Speaking of what they might want to eat, what if I was a pill bug would I be munching on?
They eat just about everything, depending on where they live. The ones you find in your yard might eat pieces of plant material, things like that. So, the big ones here are scavengers. They're at the very bottom of the sea, like a whale would die and sink to the bottom. They'd be one of the primary decomposers that would consume them. There's other ones. There's some pretty remarkable ones, which I actually happen to have one here. This is an isopod. I'll get you guys a better picture too, so you can see a little closer. This isopod is a parasite of a fish. It goes into their mouth, latches onto their tongue. The tongue withers away, and this little isopod replaces the fish's tongue and steals bits of food as the fish eats. It is the only known animal that basically inhabits another animal's body and replaces one of its organs. And it is an isopod. It is in the same family as these guys here, but it's one particular isopod that does this, and one particular fish. It replaces its tongue.
That is both creepy and amazing, all in one. So they actually shrivel up the tongue of the fish. Now, are they ultimately causing the demise of the fish, or is it more of a symbiotic relationship where they both benefit?
It's truly parasitic in this,
Okay.
but it's not harmful to the host either. Besides the tongue, it's parasitic because it offers nothing to the fish. The fish basically is just a very convenient place for it to live, where there's a constant supply of food coming by because the fish eats. So it's a great place to live if you happen to be the isopod.
You have to wonder which was the first one who crawled in and was like, I think I'm going to go live in a fish's mouth today.
Yeah. There are other ones that are parasites of animals that, like fish. Most of these are aquatic. That the parasite that hangs on the outside of fish, or maybe on the gills. This one just kept the trend going and moved into the mouth.
Found a faster, better way.
And it's the only one that does it. Yeah, some of them are carnivorous. In fact, I know, you can see from the things I have, I like skulls and bones, and some people will use the little wood lice or garden isopods you find in your yard to clean skeletons. They'll actually strip the flesh off bones. They're not the most effective way to do it, but they will eat dead flesh, even the ones you find in your garden.
Well, technically, it's a helper because it's the
It is.
decomposing aspect that most of us don't want to deal with, anyways.
Yeah, there's no real negative side to having isopods in your yard. They're truly beneficial. They break down plant material. They're decomposers. They won't typically eat your plants. They won't do any harm like that. Besides them being maybe creepy looking to some people, otherwise they're perfectly great to have in your yard.
Uh, Give me some interesting facts about isopods. They are really a unique bug. What are some interesting things about them?
Well, the females, they raise their babies, their eggs. They keep them in a pouch, and they brood them under their abdomen and carry them with them until they hatch. So they actually take care of their eggs until they're ready to swim out on their own.
So they're a little bit more of a carrying mom as opposed to some of the bugs out there that just lay their eggs and walk away, correct?
Yeah, for sure. They actually, take care of them until they're ready to hatch. So she actually watches over them and keeps them attached to the underside of her body.
That'd be interesting. That's taking a lot of children on a walk every day.
Well, they don't call them the marsupial crustacean for nothing. They, carry their babies around just like the kangaroos do, make sure they're, taken care of. And something interesting about, of course, the terrestrial version of these isopods is since they don't fly, their populations are pretty well established in the areas they live. So whereas you might find them in one neighborhood, you might not find them somewhere else if they've never been moved there, especially since they're a non-native species that has been introduced from other areas of the world. They get moved around from plants you buy at a nursery or things you move from someone's house. They could be attached to it and potted plant, whatever. And so that's how they've been spreading around and making their way about. So probably explains why I don't have them in my yard because no one ever brought any here. But I'm going to change that because I'm going to have them in my backyard now too. So I'll have my own little local pet isopod.
That is sounds like a good idea, and based off of your descriptions, I might be having to sneak down to the ocean to bring you some back because I think we can snag a few for your yard from here. These are such a crazy and fun bug, and we appreciate you spending your afternoon explaining them to us so that we can get out there and explore them ourselves. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you guys so much for joining us and remind you to like, share, and subscribe so that we can share more bright ideas with you.